Hello, all you beautiful badasses and glorious bastards. Welcome to Cutter One. I'm your host, J, your resident troublemaker and your resident culture warrior. Don't ask me why I'm talking like this, guys. I'm just in a silly, goofy mood. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining for another episode. All right, let's get right into it. This is kind of an interesting article. Okay, I know yesterday we had a whole flurry where I was sort of like came across multiple articles and I sort of tied them all in together with what I think was the motivations behind them. And this is a different one. This is actually it's a little bit old. It's a couple weeks old, but it's from MovieWeb, and it said, "Could Tolkien's Silmarillion be turned into a series or movie? The Rings of Power has adapted some of Tolkien's epic Silmarillion, but can the rest of his deep lore be adapted into a series of its own?" The Silmarillion is different from J.R.R. Tolkien's other works of literature, as it does not follow one group or journey, but is instead a collection of myths about how the world, people, and cultures became how they are in the tales of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien published this work Tolkien published this book after The Lord of the Rings as a lore and myth based novel to show how everything from his fantasy world became how it was. Initially, he was turned down to publish it, as his publisher felt it was too Celtic. So instead, he wrote The Lord of the Rings. However, he later did publish the Silmarillion after his success with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Though published after both The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings trilogy, this is a prequel to both stories. Only one part directly relates to the main storylines in either follow-up novels, and all its myths are set ages before either tale begins. Therefore, if the books were to be read in chronological order, one would start with the Silmarillion, proceed to The Hobbit, and end with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Funnily enough, while written out of order, the filming process was also out of order, as they started with The Lord of the Rings and worked their way backward. If anything, the Silmarillion would thrive as a loosely connected anthology series, telling the different stories from the book, which itself feels like built from the same vignette style as Canterbury Tales. Is there a fan base for the Silmarillion? Duh. The Tolkien fan base is large and dedicated. Damn right we are. There are casual fans who have watched and read the various media, from the old animated Hobbit movie to the massive Prime Video shit show known as The Rings of Power. Sorry, that's my own editorial commentary there. There are more serious Tolkien heads who know a seemingly endless amount of tiny details about the setting and characters that weren't in the films but just in the novels. The fans pride themselves in knowing trivia about Middle-earth and the lore. So if the Silmarillion were to be made into a show, the fan base will watch it, ingesting it greedily, but they also will critique it immensely because they are all experts in the field. It's a double-edged sword. How many seasons could it have? How would it be formatted? Well, the Silmarillion is broken into 5 parts and can easily be formatted to have each season be one part of the book, equaling 5 seasons in the show. The franchise does tend to spread Tolkien's work out, the franchise does tend to spread works out, though, so it could also be easily constructed to have 2 seasons per part, then equaling 10 seasons. The first part, Ainulindale, tells the mythic tale of the creation of Ea, the world that is. This is the first myth in existence for this lore, as it is the creator of everything else by default. The next part is the Valaquenta, which describes the Valar and Maiar, both supernatural powers of Ea. This fixates on more of the characters we might start to recognize. The third part, a large part of the overall book, is the Quenta Silmarillion. It chronicles the history of the events before and during the First Age. This included the wars over the jewels, the Silmarils, that gave the book its title. The chronicles cover much history over a long period, which is why it takes up most of the book's length. The fourth part is called okay, again, I've always had problems with that. The Akalabeth, and tells the history of the downfall of Numenor and its people. This takes place during the Second Age. The fifth part of the Silmarillion was somewhat made into Rings of Power. Ironically, the Prime Video series The Rings of Power tells a portion of the fifth part of the Silmarillion, but the fall of Numenor is also a central plot point in the series, bringing in part of Akalabeth, into the story. In the book, though, they also discuss the Third Age in a more general sense. The series stays close to the source material, but adds its own flair and details at certain parts, including Numenor's appearance. It's hardly an adaptation of the Silmarillion, though. The fifth part of the fifth part has Lord of the Rings characters that are more notably known by the fan base, especially those who have only seen the movies. Galadriel and Elrond are two main characters, and also well-established characters in previously filmed movies that the audience can immediately connect and cheer for with little introduction. It would be well worth the time to perhaps, after this series, go back and do the other four parts of the ancient myths given by Tolkien. Can the Silmarillion be done? Yes, but now that the Rings of Power has come out, things have gotten a bit more complicated. If there were to be another form of this story, the two would be compared, and one probably couldn't be canon. And with the Prime Video series being so well filmed, it would not be easy to compete with on a technical level. But if Prime Video were to expand upon the premise and take on the earlier parts of the Silmarillion, putting in as much work as they did for the Rings of Power and being as faithful as possible, then it could be a huge success. No. Nope, 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 nope. Nopey, 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 nopey. Okay. From a strictly technical standpoint, yes, you could adapt the Silmarillion. And what this article's initial idea is you make each season one of the five parts of the Silmarillion. That could work. That could work. You would have to make like each season be more than like what's the standard now, like the 8 episodes. You would have to expand it out a little bit. Make each season say maybe 10, 12 episodes, right? But you could do it. You could do it. Would I want Amazon to do it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, no, and no. I don't want Amazon touching anything Tolkien related ever again. I'm already like, I get irritable at the fact that they've still got 4 more seasons of this Rings of Nonsense show. But I don't think Amazon could do it. Do I think somebody else could probably do it? Yes. Now, the whole point of, well, it would compete against Rings of Power. It's interesting that they say that. So you wouldn't want a more faithful adaptation of the Silmarillion because it would basically show what a shit show Rings of Power is. That's what it comes down to, right? Because if they did a faithful adaptation of the Silmarillion, everybody would see the Rings of Power for the god-awful piece of trash that it is. Right? That's just my opinion, but it also happens to be fact. So I'm just putting it out there. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, I do think it could be done. I just don't think it should be done, right? To use the quote from Jurassic Park, get so caught up in whether or not you could, you didn't bother to stop and think whether or not you should. I don't think it should be done. And I know that's almost like, that's hard to hear from a diehard Tolkien fan, that I don't want to see anybody to attempt to adapt the Silmarillion to the screen. But in today's climate with Hollywood and how deeply embedded hard progressive agendas have become in Hollywood. Now, and again, I'm not, if that's your paradigm through which you see the world, that's fine. I'm not knocking the idea itself, but I mean, we have to be realistic. Hard progressive politics and ideology has not had a good track record with mixing with the entertainment industry. Okay, just look at what became of Star Wars and Doctor Who and Star Trek and the MCU. Okay, the reality is that if you start, subjugating the core of these stories to ideological bents or ideological worldviews, you tend to ruin these franchises. So that whole mixing politics with established franchise does not have a good track record, and I think we can all agree with that, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you fall on. We all have to agree with that. Politics and entertainment don't mix. Okay, well they do, but it's called propaganda. That's a complete different discussion. Not what the channel's about, right? But so as much as I hate to say it, in today's current environment, in as far as the entertainment industry goes, as a Tolkien fan, as somebody who really gets into the lore and the deep dives and ponders the questions of, how is this part of the Silmarillion applicable to the world we live in today? Notice how I said applicable. I don't want to see Hollywood touch the Silmarillion. So I guess the short answer for me is, yeah, it could be done. It could be done, but quite honestly, I don't have enough faith in Hollywood that I want them to do it. That's where I stand. But that's just my take. Let me know what you folks think down in the comment section below. Do you think the Silmarillion could be done in a way that didn't come across as some half-assed lame attempt at just cashing in on Tolkien? Do you think it could be done and done well? And if you do, with the current state of the Hollywood and the entertainment industry, would you want them to take on something like the Silmarillion? Do you think it would just end up being a big flaming dumpster fire? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Again, if you like the video, then like the video. If you feel like sharing the video, by all means, feel free to do so, because it gets us out there, it gets us seen, it gets us noticed, right? If you are joining us for the first time and you have not subscribed, I would hope that you would consider subscribing to the channel. We're trying to build this thing, trying to get numbers up. I'm still the small new kid on the block in terms of like a lot of Tolkien channels and stuff like that. So I'm trying to get things going and get some momentum going, and getting my English to work. So if you would consider subscribing, it would mean the world to me. If you are a returning subscriber, then you're already freaking awesome and you're the best, and there's really not much else to say other than you freaking rock. So yeah, there you go, folks. So that's it. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I'd be interested to hear your take. Because yeah, like I said, I think it could be done, but I don't think it should be done. But that's just me. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Remember, be good, be awesome, be safe. Until next time, I will see you. Peace.